When you think Junji Ito, you probably think of body horror and scenarios you'd hope to never encounter in real life. The man has cemented himself as one of the best horror mangakas and is personally a favorite of mine. The man is usually associated with the horror genre, but there's one story by Junji Ito that has made me tear up. Lingering Farewell, or its other title, Gentle Goodbye, is one of Junji Ito's more unique works. By no means is it horrific nor grotesque in its writing and art style, but rather focuses on another aspect that I believe Ito excels in. That is the feeling of helplessness in his work. Let's look at another piece he made, such as one of my favorite mangas, Uzumaki. Uzumaki excels in being able to evoke a sense of helplessness through the various events that occur in the town of Kurozucho. It's this feeling of being unable to escape from impending doom that attracts me to Junji Ito's work. I think it's truly dreadful when one realizes that something horrifying is about to happen, yet you lack the power to do anything about it. This is what makes Lingering Farewell so interesting to me. I'm going to summarize what happens in the story before analyzing it and giving my thoughts on it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I suggest you go read it before proceeding to watch the rest of the video. It can be found in one of Ito's horror collections, Mano Kakera, or Fragments of Horror. It's not very long and will take you about 10 to 15 minutes to read. Akiko's greatest fear is losing her father. She had lost her mother when she was young, leaving her father to be her only parent left. She'd get nightmares of him dying and would scream into the night, begging him not to die. The unease would not leave her, and the dreams would continue to linger. In one of her dreams, her father had turned into a toy. As she treasured it and took good care of the toy, it became neglected and was thrown into a drawer. After some time passed, the toy was nowhere to be found. We see Akiko as an adult married to a man named Makoto Tokura gather for dinner with her new in-laws. Where one would expect to see an atmosphere of happiness and joy, we end up witnessing the family's obvious disdain in their faces, all except for the younger sister Yuka. It's clear that the Tokura family disapproves of their marriage, yet Makoto tells Akiko not to worry as they'd warm up eventually. Makoto introduces Akiko to his great-grandparents and explains why they were not able to attend the wedding nor the dinner earlier due to their frail bodies. Even as an adult, Akiko still gets nightmares of her father dying. We see Akiko wandering around the house and witnessing a ghostly old woman in the dark. This startles her and she tells the great-grandparents about it, but they do not waver and proceed to gaze at her. Makoto tells her that they are not ghosts and continues to explain that the figure she saw was his great-great-grandmother. He tells her about his other relatives that are said to be around but are soon to disappear. Makoto explains that what she has witnessed are nothing but mere after images. The next morning, grandfather passed away and we see Akiko's father attend the funeral. But right after he leaves, the Tokura family vigorously pray for their deceased grandfather. In this pandemonium of prayers, we see an after-image of the once deceased grandfather appear. Makoto explains that while he isn't a ghost, nor did he revive, he is nothing but a phantom that one can still talk to, yet these conversations never say anything more than the family would expect. The purpose of these after-images are to simply soothe the pain of losing a loved one. It allows them to say goodbye and accept their death. These after-images only last for about 20 years, which gives them enough time to say goodbye. Akiko asks her husband if, when her father dies, could they bring him back as an after-image. While one person is enough to bring back an after-image of a loved one, he promises to discuss it with his parents. The in-laws disapprove of this request, saying it would not benefit their family in any way. Akiko apologizes and breaks down in another room. Yuka comforts her, asking Akiko not to hate them for it. As Akiko reaches out her hand to hold Yuka's face, We see her lightly dissolve into the background. Yuka died from an illness 10 years ago, and lately her afterimage has been growing faint. As 8 years go by and we see Akiko continue to work hard in order to attain the approval of her in-laws, yet no matter how hard she works, they still remain cold and distant. Even her husband has started growing cold towards her. Akiko runs outside looking for her husband while holding the bento box he left at home. But she sees him in arms with another woman. Later that night, she confronts him about her and asks if he's having an affair, and without looking into her eyes, says yes. Akiko asks what he will do, and Makoto tells her that he'll eventually marry her. Akiko, while being heartbroken, refuses to get a divorce, but Makoto tells her that he is still committed to her. Akiko shouts at him, confused on how he can marry another woman while not being divorced. Makoto, enraged, slaps Akiko. He tells her that he's sorry for not telling her sooner. 10 years ago, a day before the wedding, Akiko died from an accident, and Makoto begged his father to bring her back. Akiko wanders around the household, realizing she'll vanish in 10 years' time. She contemplates how her husband has felt the past 10 years and asks herself who would leave first, her or her father. As she walks to her father's home, she thinks to herself that she would be likely to leave first, and so she sees her father at the front door of her old home, and he asks Akiko, "What's wrong?" She simply smiles and says, "I'm home." I think it's safe to say that this is different from Junji Ito's usual style. The man is well known for grotesque body horror, and yet none of that is present in this short story. One can argue that Lingering Farewell could be one of Ito's worst works, as it lacks what makes the artist so unique and admirable. His skill as a mangaka is not fully explored here like it is in Gyo or even Tomi. When reading these other works, one can easily see that the attention to detail put into it is really astounding. Littered with lines placed in tiny areas one may not even notice, and yet none of that is fully present in A Lingering Farewell. Let's compare this to another short story done by Junji Ito. One of my favorite short stories by the man is The Human Chair. This story is simply about a woman who receives an ominous-looking chair that she suspects to be alive. I am aware that this is merely an adaptation done by Ito, but my point still stands. While in concept being simple, the art in the story is one truly horrific and even at times mesmerizing to look at. This is why Lingering Farewell stands out to me. I'm not saying that the art is bad in any way, far from it, but I want to emphasize on my point as to how the story differentiates itself to other Ito works. So with that said, what's so good about it? I think for me, the most interesting aspect to this story is its main theme. Without trying to sound pretentious, well, this whole channel kinda is, I think one of the most difficult questions to ask is, how much time does one need to cope? How long is enough for us to realize that one person that we love is no longer around? How much time do we need to say goodbye? It's definitely a subjective answer, and I hope you don't mind, but I'll get a little personal for a bit. I've lost a loved one as well earlier this year, and I don't think I've fully grasped the idea that the person I love is no longer around. I also have no idea when I'll be able to essentially cope. But we're put into the perspective of Akiko, a girl who already lost one parent, and so it's understandable why she'd fear losing another. For a good portion of her life, there's a fear perpetually imposed in her mind that this is the inevitable death of her father. In Latin, memento mori, a reminder that one's place in this world is not forever, and while not explicitly stated by the characters nor the author, I believe it is a simple saying that evokes this story really well. One argument that can be made is that this style isn't necessarily what makes Ito so special, but I'd argue one of Junji Ito's best works, Gyo, has a tragic ending that leaves a similar feeling of sadness. Both stories have main characters that do everything in their power to please their loved one, and yet in the end fail to do so. Both stories do an excellent job as well as giving the reader the feeling of an undeserved punishment befallen on our characters. And while I prefer Gyo for its amazing art style that evokes to me an unprecedented fear of a fish with legs, there's one aspect in a lingering feeling that hits me. When Akiko finds out that she is an afterimage, it's a really shocking twist. But what's more compelling is what she does after the revelation. She goes to the person who she fears losing most. And with a smile on her face, we can see the comfort she feels seeing her father again. As if after 10 years of working so hard to please people who don't like you, you get to see someone who does. What broke me was the reaction on her face. A face that finally feels at peace. And as she slowly fades away, she just smiles. Just like the afterimage she is. So, thank you so much for watching this short video compared to my last one. I know it's been a while, but I've been kind of busy with school and stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely enjoyed a lot of Junji Ito's work, and you know, it's only recently I've gotten into manga, like just this year, and so I want to talk more about it in the future, but I need to read more manga. So yeah, I hope you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment what you thought about this short story by Junji Ito. If you think it was great, if you teared up as well as me, or if you thought it was pretty bad. I'm open to any of your opinions. I'd like to discuss about it in the comments down below. And I have a lot of YouTube ideas that I want to make, ranging from music and films. And you know, this channel isn't really limited to just Japanese pop culture, but rather the stuff I'm really interested in. And so I hope those other videos you guys will enjoy as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and bye.